Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Council meeting of the 28th of July 2025. Before we commence our meeting, I request that all mobile telephones are switched off or turned on to silent. We will now commence by reading the Acknowledgement of Country. I call upon Councillor Nolan to read the acknowledgement.
Thank you, Mayor. I acknowledge the Wurundjeri Woiwurrung people as the traditional owners and original custodians of this land, and I pay my respects to their elders past and present, and the elders from other communities who may be here today.
Thank you. My name is Councillor Sophie Tawney and I'm the Mayor of Boroondara City Council, and I'll start by introducing my fellow councillors. Seated to my left at the horseshoe table in the council chamber are Councillor Lisa Hollingsworth, Councillor Shimmer Abuki, Councillor Wes Galt, Councillor Michael Nolan, Councillor Felicity Simfield, Councillor Victor Franco, Deputy Mayor, Councillor Mal Osborne-Smith, Councillor Rob Baillieu, and joining us online we have Councillor Chris Pattis. I'd also acknowledge in attendance this evening our Chief Executive Officer, Mr Philip Storer, and our Manager of Governance and Legal, Mr Brian Wee. There are other officers in attendance tonight and they'll be introduced as required. Please note that the Council meeting is being live streamed on the Council YouTube page, so you can watch proceedings of the meeting, Councillor deliberations and voting. The meeting will also be recorded and made available on the Council website as soon as possible after the meeting. I will now move to apologies. Mr Wee, are there any apologies for this evening?
Through you, Madam Mayor, Councillor Frin Pereira has an apology this evening.
Thank you, Mr Wee. We'll now move to item 2 on the agenda, the adoption and confirmation of the minutes of the Council meeting held on 30th of June 2025. Councillors, can I please have a motion to adopt and confirm the minutes? Councillor Hollingsworth.
Approve the motion to adopt as circulated. Thank you.
Do I have a seconder? Councillor Osborne-Smith.
Happy to second. Thanks, Mayor.
Thank you. Councillors, is anyone opposed? I will now put the motion. All those in favour? I declare the motion carried. We will now move to item 3 on the agenda, declaration of conflict of interest of any councillor or council officer. Councillors and council officers, are there any conflicts of interest that you wish to foreshadow for the matters on the agenda tonight? Councillor Galt. Councillor Galt, do you have a conflict of interest for a matter on the agenda tonight? Can you put your microphone on, please?
It's a leave application. I'll leave the chamber.
Is that a material conflict of interest?
A material conflict of interest.
Thank you, Councillor Galt. When we get to item 9.1, if you could please declare your conflict. We'll move to item 4. Mr Wee, 4.1, are there any petitions?
Through you, Madam Mayor, one petition on the agenda in relation to a pedestrian crossing at Bowen Street.
Thank you, Mr Wee. I would like to acknowledge tonight that we have members of the Shenley Manor Aged Care Facility in Council. You're very welcome to be here and it's lovely to see you. Thank you for coming. Councillor Galt, I understand you would like to present an additional petition at tonight's meeting. Can you please state petition's call to action and the number of signatories?
I will indeed. Thank you, Mayor. Council received this petition after the agenda for this meeting was finalised. This petition is related to a matter coming up at the Urban Delegated Committee next week. Consequently, to assist the community, I am tabling this petition which seeks to support for Barton's Milk Bar to be open for dinner Thursday, Friday and Saturday nights. There are about 265 signatures on this petition, so I table that tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Galt. Councillors, is anyone prepared to move a motion in relation to the petitions as appearing on screen? Councillor Abuki.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I'm happy to move the motion on the screen. Thank you.
Councillors, do I have a seconder? Councillor Baillieu.
So seconded, Chair.
Councillors, is anyone opposed? I will now put the motion. All those in favour? I declare the motion carried. I will now move to item 5 on the agenda, informal meetings of councillors. Councillors, is anyone prepared to move a motion in relation to informal meetings of councillors as appearing on the screen? Councillor Galt.
So moved, Mayor.
Do I have a seconder? Councillor Nolan.
Happy to second.
Councillors, is anyone opposed? I will now put the motion. All those in favour? I declare the motion carried. We will now move to item 6 on the agenda, public question time. Council encourages the submission of public questions prior to 12 p.m. on the day of the meeting. Questions submitted prior to 12 noon will be provided with a detailed verbal response as well as a response in writing. Those submitted after 12 p.m. will receive a verbal response if possible, but will otherwise be taken on notice for a more comprehensive written response to be provided in due course. Mr. Wee, do we have any public questions?
Through you, Madam Mayor, this evening we have one question from one member of the community.
Thank you for the question. All questions have been allowed in accordance with Chapter 2 of the Governance Rules. The question will receive a written response in due course. The question is from George Demetrius. The subject is the 2025-26 Road Refurbishment Program. Every year after the passing of each budget, Council releases a list of roads to be reconstructed under the annual Road Refurbishment Program. In June this year, Save Boroondara's Bluestone Heritage emailed Council staff inquiring about the release of the 25-26 Road Refurbishment Program schedule, but a reply is yet to be received. When will the 2025-26 Road Refurbishment Program be available to be viewed by Boroondara residents? I call upon Director of Places and Spaces to respond to this question.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and through you. This program is yet to be finalised and is under review given the ongoing work in relation to the roads material policy. We're therefore not able to release a program at this stage. However, the initial focus of the program will be on like-for-like actions in accordance with the existing policy approach of the Bluestone Policy 2010. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Free, and thank you for your question, Mr. Demetrius. Item 7, notices of motion. Mr. Wee, do we have any notices of motion?
Through you, Madam Mayor, we have no notices of motion this evening.
Thank you. We will now move to the presentation of officer reports. We'll start with item 8.1, the May 2025 monthly financial report, which will be introduced by Sapphire Allen, Acting Chief Financial Officer.
Thank you, and through you, Chair. I'm pleased to present the May 2025 monthly financial report. Council's favourable operating result against the year-to-date budget of $55.7 million is $12.87 million, or 30% above the 24-25 amended budget. At the end of May, Council's cash position stood at $222.26 million, or $29.08 million above the year-to-date budget. Council's balance sheet and cash position remain sound. Thank you, and happy to take any questions.
Councillors, are there any questions of officers? Councillor Ibuki.
Thank you, and through you, Mayor. I noticed that we have one variation, and that is the lower than expected staff costs due to staff vacancies across the organisation. My question is, what is this attributed to as an unexpected variation? What's the impact on the organisation and its service delivery with higher than expected staff vacancies? Thank you.
Thank you for your question, Councillor Ibuki. So the lower than expected employee cost are due to vacancies across the organisation. So we do budget for a full complement of staff. However, we do often find we do have vacancies. which then also explains the over expenditure as well on temporary staff as well in the same respect. So we always make sure that we do have a service delivery so that isn't impacted as we go through the financial year.
No further questions. Councillors, is anyone prepared to move a motion? Councillor Abuki?
I'm happy to move a motion to accept the officer's recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Simfield.
Happy to.
To assist the mover, is anybody opposed? Councillor Abuki, as the mover, do you wish to speak to the motion?
No, it's quite explanatory. Thank you.
I'll now put the motion to the vote. All those in favour? I declare the motion carried. We'll now move to item 8.2, the 2025 small grants allocations. This item will be introduced by Fiona Brown, Manager of Community Development.
Thank you, and through you, Madam Mayor, the purpose of tonight's report is to present the 25-26 small grant allocations to Council for noting, and secondly, to seek endorsement to allocate $57,000 from the 25-26 annual community strengthening grants to support the delivery of 2 Christmas carols events. So firstly, to the small grants, the forecast funding pool for the 25-26 annual community strengthening grants is $643,936. This includes a council contribution of $301,785, rolled over funds from the 24-25 annual community strengthening grants of $117,151, and a Rotary contribution of $225,000. 69 applications were received, requesting a total of $139,685. 64 applications were approved for funding of totaling $127,722 under delegated authority from the Director of Community Services. All recommended allocations, including the project summaries, are listed in Attachment 1. Applications not recommended for funding, withdrawn or ineligible are listed in a confidential Attachment 2. I'd also like to point out that there is confidential information contained also in confidential Attachments 1 and 3 as circulated in the confidential section of your agenda. If there's any discussion of this confidential information in the attachments to the report, Council may resolve to discuss the matter in a confidential session or defer the matter to a confidential section of the agenda. And I'll now hand over to the Director to speak about the Christmas Carol events.
Thanks, Fiona. Just want to briefly talk about the fact that there are 4 community groups who received triennial operational grant funding to deliver free public carols events. Engagement with these groups has identified that delivery of these events is becoming increasingly expensive and complex, and therefore they've come to Council regarding new ways of working and some additional resources for 2 of those events. That's the Macleay Park Carols and the Canterbury Gardens Carols events. And so although this report is titled Small Grants Allocations, it actually deals with both small grants allocations for 24 for this year, but also some triennial funding as well, and that will be reflected in the minutes. Importantly to note is that the additional funding for Macleay Park and Canterbury Gardens is just for the 25 events. It's not part of the ongoing triennial grants process, and in any case, the triennial funding finishes in this financial year anyway. The money that we're asking for, the additional money for these 2 carols events, is coming from unspent funds in the 24-25 financial year from the grants program, so it's not going to eat into funding for 25-26 grants which were received, and we're kind of in the process for the first round for them at the moment. It's also important to note that those community groups for Macleay and Canterbury have had discussions with other potential and existing sponsors and funders, but have not secured additional funding, hence this report's recommendation. And that it's also important to note that the Macleay Park Carols and possibly we think also the Canterbury Carols are unlikely to proceed without the proposed additional funding. And hence the importance of the timeliness of this decision tonight, so events have enough time to deliver them in December this year. More broadly, the report raises a number of key issues. So one is around the increased complexity and cost to deliver community events by, local volunteer groups. And hence, Council is likely to see an increase in funding for this type of event in future grant applications. It's certainly something to consider moving forward. And secondly, this whole, these things tend to go in cycles, and we seem to be at a part of our cycle where there might be an opportunity to review the models and how we fund it, etc. And that could be subject to a further briefing to Council, which could feed into the broader review of the grants program towards the end of the year. And the recommendation is as read for you. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillors, are there any questions of officers? Councillor Galt.
Thank you, Mayor. Just returning to the small grants portion of the report tonight. You mentioned there was a council contribution there of $301,785. That was in addition to the carryover from last year. But further down, you explain in great detail where community strengthened grants, 25% of that goes towards these small grants, and this totals $169,884. Can I ask where the balance comes from of council contributions, apart from the carryovers?
So that allocation to the small grants is a provisional 25% of the total pool.
Yes.
But when it's not spent, as it's not in this, then it will move over to the annual grants up to 10,000, which is what we're looking at the moment. And it is only a provisional allocation. And then the balance of the funds comes from the Rotary Club of Balwyn. Yeah. So essentially there's a council contribution of 301,000 and there's the Rotary Club of Balwyn's contribution. This year we happen to have some rolled over funds as well. But just to manage how we deal with the applications that come in, there's a provisional allocation made to the smalls.
Thank you. I read it differently.
Oh, sorry.
Thank you for your explanation. It was a very thorough report, but it mentions specifically the 301 plus. It also mentions the rollover funds of 170 something. It also mentions the Balwyn contribution, which is fantastic. And it mentions the 160, which is the 25% of the overall.
Correct.
I thought there was something missing then to make it up to 301 as the council contribution.
No, there's nothing missing. It's more how we apportion it. So
I think when you add the other
we can
figures
take that on notice in terms of how we describe it moving forward.
Yeah, yep. Because the other figures all add up to the total that you provide. So there was obviously something missing. I'm happy to take that on notice. That'd be great. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Hollingsworth.
Thank you, Mayor. My question's with regard to inclement weather, and myself as my 9th year of councillor. Sadly, I've seen many events cancelled or reallocated if there's been torrential rain, and as we know, December's not immune to that. So what's the contingency in the event? It's a considerable pool of money that's being proposed to be allocated. Is there a backup plan where the events can still be held with each of these organisations?
I might throw to the Acting Manager of Arts, Culture and Economic Development, Jackie Gatt, to respond to that. I'm also happy to jump in, Jackie, if you...
Thanks, Kate. In response to the question, the two events in question, which are Canterbury Gardens and also Macleay Park Carols, they don't run any alternatives at the moment, although Macleay Park Carols does have a streaming option where they have carols in the cloud to enable people to access it if they can't get on, be on site for the actual event. But in direct answer to your question, Councillor Hollingsworth, with these types of events, particularly in the lead up to Christmas, there aren't many weekends available to reschedule, and so often they're just subject to people turning up regardless of the weather. They're generally only cancelled if it's considered to be a health risk or if there's any safety requirements around weather, but otherwise they proceed as planned.
Thank you. And if I may, Mayor, just one follow-up. So if the forecast was for inclement weather, for example, 24 hours beforehand, is there ability to cancel some of the equipment that may be hired so that not all the budget's absorbed, and then the budget could be reallocated to another time, rather than risk losing, a significant amount of money?
It depends on the equipment, but a lot of it you'll have to put a deposit regardless, so you're always going to lose that. It really just depends on the event. You certainly wouldn't get it all back because often a lot of the costs, paying the staff, etc., has gone into the build-up, not the actual running of event itself.
Yeah, and I don't mean to be negative on this. They're wonderful events, and obviously we can't help Mother Nature. And sorry, just one very quick final question. I assume the events won't be held on the same night, so that community, for example, if there was inclement weather and one might be cancelled, ideally the following week might be better, and so at least our community could go to at least one of them. Is that a fair question?
That's correct, and actually the groups work together and liaise to make sure they don't hold their events at the same time on the same days.
Thank you.
Councillor Abuki.
Thank you, and through you, Mayor. So I note that we've got these community organisations who have experienced increased challenges in delivering their events due to rising costs and resource constraints. Are you finding that that is a pattern across other community organisations outside of this paper, and are there things that you feel that we might need to do in order to support those organisations to continue holding these events which are of great benefit to the public?
The answer is yes and yes. Remembering also that for the community to hold these events, it's much cheaper, frankly, for community to hold them than if council was to deliver them in-house. So, and you get all the benefit of that community insight, knowledge, ownership. So it's a great model. It's just that at the moment where it is in its cycle is that it's really challenging for those groups. So hence our discussion, us flagging that it could be an opportunity to kind of bring a paper briefing to council about what this means, we're up to, and what the next steps could potentially look like.
Councillor Baillieu.
I just wanted to inquire into what seems like a significant subsidy of these events. Why are the churches no longer sponsoring these events?
I think they are still providing some sponsorship, just not the level which is required in order for the events to proceed. We have, in our discussions with the groups, we have talked to them about their discussions with other grant funders, sponsors and funders. And all I can say is that where we've landed is the fact that there is additional resources required, and hence the recommendations, because we felt as officers, to Councillor Schimmer's point, is that these events provide considerable benefit to the community and they were worthwhile supporting, at least for 2025.
So the churches have ceased supporting these events and it's fallen onto council to step up?
They're still providing some support, just not, there's a gap now, obviously, around what is required to deliver these events. And the community groups discussions with the churches are such that we have the report before you tonight. And that's really all I can comment on.
Okay, fair enough. When it comes to years coming down the track, how will we sponsor and support these events so that it's a financially sustainable thing for the council to do?
They're not money-making ventures, especially if you want them to be free, but hence our suggestion that we could have a briefing with councillors around the different options of what future models could look like.
I know that we have special rate schemes for business trips, for example, that contribute to events for businesses. Are there opportunities for us to explore that kind of model for churches, where churches subscribe to a special rate scheme to sponsor these events?
Possibly outside tonight's discussion. I think Councillor Baillieu.
I might defer to my CEO for that question.
Thank you. The challenge there is to identify the beneficiaries of the scheme, who are not necessarily just those people running the carols, but the community who might attend them. So there's a degree to which that would probably be of limited value when you've just got the one group with or it's very difficult to define who the beneficiaries will be beyond that.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Franco.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. My questions have largely been asked by Councillor Baillieu, but I'll ask a couple of additional questions. What expectations, if any, do the this obviously relates to the carols, in particular the one with the 500% increase in the council subsidy. What expectations, if any, do they have that this will continue in this vein in future years? And also the churches that have previously been sponsoring, what expectations do they have, and have officers given any indication as to their expectations for future years of funding?
In terms of the expectations of the other churches, I really don't think we can talk to that other than what the community groups have spoken to with them as funders for tonight's decision in terms of future intentions, because we're clear about what the current intentions are for this 2025 event, which is what we're talking about. There has been ongoing discussion with the Macleay Park group about the viability and the model in which they want to deliver it moving forward. And I don't think we have an answer to your first part of your question beyond the 2025 event, because the challenges have been such that we're just trying to get through this year, and then we'll continue to look at what the future events look like post 2025.
And the triennial grant, this is the final year of that grant. Okay, thank you.
Perhaps through you, Madam Mayor, if I could just confirm that there are some questions which are new for this councillor group, and some issues perhaps you've not been required to turn your minds to until this point. So there would be some value, I think, in us bringing forward a further report specifically on the question of carols. So some of the issues you're raising can in fact be canvassed and discussed by you as to how you would like to deal with those in the future.
Does that answer some of your questions, Councillor Franco and Baillieu? Councillor Osborne-Smith.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Quick question regarding insurance. Clearly that was cited as one of the major reasons for the substantial increase in costs. I'm curious to understand, are these community groups insuring these events through their own brokers and insurance companies, or is there an opportunity for council to assist with a larger insurance policy across, you know, $1 billion of property to help reduce some of those costs? I guess what I'm asking is, are we supporting these events enough on the insurance side of things, which often is a huge component?
So the PLI is like part of the grant eligibility process. I might throw to Jackie in terms of any other PLI issues that are specific. It depends on the group itself. So one of the group is auspiced by the Victorian Council of Churches. So they're not an incorporated entity in and of themselves. Other groups are incorporated entities. It really just depends on the nature of the group who is running it. That makes sense as well. Is there anything else you wanted to add, Jackie?
No, I think that's about it, Kate, except that the auspice organisation, as you mentioned, can take out insurance on behalf of the group.
I guess the basis of my question was, are we satisfied that the insurance component cost of these events is being adequately managed, and we're not being asked just to put up our hand and pay an increased fee on the back of substantial increased insurance costs that we may be able to insure the event or add to our policy and thereby reduce costs?
Yeah, it's not an approach that we have taken to date with our grants. They have to provide insurance as part of the grant, the cost of the project or the program. So once again, it's something that could be canvassed, but it's certainly not something that's in the model at the moment.
Okay, perhaps we can discuss that when it next comes around. Thank you.
Okay. Councillor Simfield.
If questions are exhausted, I'm happy to move a motion.
Thank you, Councillor Simfield. Councillor Baillieu.
I just wanted to understand if this is a time sensitive for point 2 of the recommendations. I'm a bit concerned that we haven't actually previously been briefed on this or had a proper discussion.
Yes, it's time sensitive.
So if we don't pass it tonight, these carols don't happen?
It puts them in a very difficult position, so it would be ideal if we could pass it tonight.
Councillors, if there are no further questions, Councillor Sinfield.
Thank you. I'd like to move the officer's recommendation.
Thank you. Councillors, do I have a seconder? Councillor Nolan.
Happy to second.
To assist the mover, is there anyone opposed?
Madam Mayor, I'm not opposed, but could we incorporate the suggested an amendment for the additional report specific to the funding from the churches that the CEO proposed?
Councillor Sinfield.
I don't find it necessary to incorporate it into the motion. I will take the CEO on his word that a report will come forward.
Councillor Pattis.
I'm uncomfortable with that. The CEO's proposed the report. We need to put it in the recommendation so we're clear about what the expectations are. I don't think we should be, everything's in writing here, Madam Mayor. We should be putting things in writing so that we can always review this in future.
So, Councillor Pattis, would you like to move an amendment to the motion?
I would like to move an amendment, thank you, Madam Mayor, and that is point number 4, that a further report be brought to this council for discussion regarding funding from the religious organisation or from the church organisations for the carols events.
Could I suggest that the wording is less specific than that, because not all are run by churches, they're community groups?
Yes, to add that point, I would request a report that's more general in nature about events, I think.
Sorry, say that again, Councillor.
In support of Councillor
Sinfield.
Sinfield's comment there, I would suggest that that report be more general in nature to take into account funding of future events.
Happy with that, Madam Mayor.
I'd like to ask a question about Councillor Pattis's proposed motion, and perhaps if it's okay with you, Madam Mayor, if Councillor Pattis could reply, is your motion going to look at the Christmas carols events or just all events across the municipality? Because I think the issue here relates to the carols and how they're funded and operated. We haven't had any other discussion about any other events where this has occurred.
I think this should be specifically to do with the Christmas carols events.
Thanks.
If we're able to draft something, it's coming up on the screen now, I'd rather do that in this open meeting, so we just wait. Ms McCackey's just drafting what she thinks is trying to be achieved by Councillor Pattis here.
That looks fine to me, Madam Mayor. This way we don't talk about the organisations, we just talk about the events and how we fund them.
Just wait a moment, Councillor Pattis, because we can't see what's on screen as yet.
Oh, I can.
We understand that. Just wait a moment.
Every time.
We don't have a seconder. This is a we don't have a seconder.
Councillors, Councillor Pattis, are you happy with that as your amendment?
Further report be brought back to this council meeting regarding future delivery options, models, funding and partners at Christmas Carol events in Burundara. Thank you. Yes, I am.
Do I have a seconder for this motion? Councillor Franco.
I'm happy to second Councillor Pattis's amendment.
To assist the mover, is there anyone opposed to the motion that's up on screen? It's on, what's on the screen?
Sorry, the amendment, I think we're voting on the amendment at present.
Councillor Simfield.
Yes, I thought I moved a motion, but if this has now usurped that, then so be it. I didn't know that I had a seconder before getting an amendment to it, but there was a seconder, was there?
And Councillor Bailey, you're opposed?
Councillor Pattis is the mover, Councillor Franco is the seconder, and we have Councillor Bailey opposed. So
Yep. So, Councillor Pattis, as the mover, do you wish to speak to the motion?
No, we're moving the amendment, right? Not the whole motion. Just so we're clear.
You're moving the whole thing that's on the screen, Councillor Pattis.
We haven't voted on the amendment yet.
He's moved
I think we should vote.
So he's now, I'm giving him the opportunity to speak to that motion that's on the screen. Councillor Pattis, do you want to speak to the motion on the screen?
No.
Councillor Franco, as the seconder, do you wish to speak to the motion?
I don't wish to speak to the amendment, no.
Any other councillor like to speak?
Any other councillor like to speak? Councillor Bailey.
I get these are big and cherished events, and they have a fantastic turnout, 6,000 people at one of them. But I'm really disappointed in the process that's happened here, where there's been no briefing to councillors on these events and alternate funding models. We've jumped straight to, oh, council should subsidise this event, and this is a big subsidy. It's not clear why the churches have abandoned this event. I don't understand what position we're putting ourselves into when it comes to precedent long term in supporting these events. Are we sleepwalking into supporting these events long into the future?
Point of order, Chair. I find it objectionable under Section 83 of the Governance Rules.
Why do you find it objectionable?
Because Councillor Baillieu has just made remarks which are utterly unfounded about the community organisations across Burundara that work their darndest to deliver these, and he's speaking in a defamatory way.
Which remarks?
In saying that it's been abandoned and various other negative words that you've used about this, saying that we're sleepwalking into
I'm
things.
happy to remove the word abandoned if that helps Councillor Sinfield.
Thank you, Councillor Baillieu.
Have ceased support for the event. Given it's a significant subsidy, given we know that many religious organisations are well positioned financially to support these kind of events, I just want to highlight that we need to have a serious conversation about this down the line and not just jump straight to subsidising an event. We need briefings.
Do we have any specific comments about the amendment of bringing the report back?
Madam Mayor, I just need to make a comment in relation to the observations made by Councillor Baillieu, which might be of assistance, which is to say that the approach taken here is exactly in line with Council's own policy. In other words, this is not a matter which should be coming to a council briefing and discussion. That is the policy this council has adopted. And what you have in front of you, therefore, accords with the council approach. If you wish to change that in relation to how grants are dealt with, you need to adopt a new policy. But this is a policy of recent origin. You might recall we've had a conversation about how these matters will be dealt with on the basis of the recommendations which have come out of integrity agency reports. So that's why you haven't seen this in a council briefing and discussion, and why it's coming to you as it is.
Thank you. Councillor Hollingsworth, do you have a comment about the amendment?
I do, thank you, Mayor. Will be supporting Councillor Pattis's motion with the amendment included, and I acknowledge comments from councillor colleagues that this is the first time we've seen this proposal in this format, and I also do have reservations moving forward that this probably could not be sustained every year. So I look forward to receiving your report, and I look forward to discussing the possibility of potentially consolidating some of these events so that they are affordable for all community to attend. But I will definitely support this and thank Councillor Pattis for his addition.
Councillor Franco, do you want to speak to this actual amendment?
To the amendment, yeah, I will say a few words if I may, Mayor. I think the amendment is important to ensure and make it transparent that this advice and report is brought back to the elected council, and that's why I have seconded the amendment, and I think it's important to do so to send a very clear signal. I do, however, have concerns more broadly about the last-minute nature of the request and the scale of the variation of 500% increase. And my preference would be to defer the overall matter for a further short discussion.
Just commenting on the amendment at the moment, Councillor Franco.
So we're going to vote on the amendment.
Once you finish,
thank you.
Why don't we put the amendment to a vote? All those in favour of the amendment? All those against? I declare the amendment carried. Now we're going to move the motion. Councillor Sinfield. Sorry, Councillor Pattis. Would you like to speak to the motion?
Yes, Madam Mayor.
As amended on screen.
Yes, Madam Mayor.
Go for it. Councillor Pattis.
Thank you. I think it's important that we have two things at play here. Number one, we have previously delegated a lot of these decisions to the officers as part of our policy. So we need to remember that in terms of the choices of where this funding goes, that's been delegated. So that doesn't always come back to us. And that's a consequence of the decisions that we've made in the recent past. The second thing, I think it's important to have a look at the Christmas Carol events, and we need to look at them from the point of view of the benefits that they provide to the community, rather than maybe the actions of some of the supporters in the past, although that's important to take into account. I think the thing that we need to keep looking at is what is the impact of this on the community and what benefits do these events provide, not only on the people that attend the events, but any suppliers that provide supplies for these events and the other consequences for the local communities. So yes, I'm in favour of this motion and a report coming back to us.
Thank you, Councillor Pattis. My mistake, I should have asked before you spoke if there was anyone opposed to the amended motion as it appears on the screen. Councillor Baillieu. Councillor Franco, as the seconder of the motion, do you wish to speak now or reserve your right?
Am I the seconder of the motion as well? Okay.
Become the substantive motion.
Okay, look, I'll speak to it. I'll speak now. I'm uncomfortable with the last minute nature of this request and the shift in the scale of the funding shift to council to pick up the shortfall of what the churches were previously funding, and I'm concerned the signal that it sends that we so quickly pick up the shortfall without further analysis. I appreciate these events may hold significant value, may be very well regarded, but the fact that the churches in question are pulling away from it leaves questions in my mind as to why they're doing so and why they don't want as close an association with the event. So I have some trepidation in relation to the overall motion, but I do think it's important to get a report. So I welcome the part 4 of this motion and the other details in relation to the small grants allocations. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Franco. I will now put... Oh, does any other councillor wish to speak? Oh, we do. Councillor Baillieu.
Just to reinforce Councillor Franco's comments, reiterate my earlier comments, and acknowledge that I'm a big fan of delegating grants applications away from councillors. I just think that contextually this is quite a significant change, and I think that is worth raising with councillors, but acknowledging the integrity aspect.
Thank you, Councillor Baillieu. Councillor Simfield.
Thank you. I'd like to start by thanking and acknowledging the contribution of the Rotary Club of Balwyn to the annual Community Strengthening Grants funding pool. They've contributed $225,000 towards this funding pool, and without their contribution through initiatives such as the Camberwell Sunday Market, all of these small grants and other grant processes across the city wouldn't happen. Additionally, my thanks go to their 2 panel members who attend in a slightly revised and new format with council officers to review all of these applications. And they've reviewed nearly 70 applications, and 64 of them are funded to the tune of $127,000. So their commitment in time and volunteer hours is immense. I'd also like to thank the officers for the extra effort they've put into bringing this to us tonight and expediting bringing the triennial grant issues to us and briefing us through a 22-page comprehensive report, which I thank them for. We have received these papers a week or so in advance of the meeting, and councillors have had ample time to ask their questions and clear up any issues that they felt uncomfortable with. So my thanks to the officers for bringing this to our attention. Thank you.
Does any other councillor wish to speak? Councillor Galt.
Thanks very much. I understand that, and I support the position we've taken that with grants, they're done independent of council. And we support that, and that was a recently made decision. I had understood that the grants that cover the carols were part of a triennial grant that probably happened some time ago before we made that decision. So I would have thought there would have been grounds to bring that back to council for consideration. But having said that, having gone this far down the track and given the pressure of time and the fact that we've added clause 4, which says we'll think through this, we'll work out what we're going to do longer term, I'm happy to support this motion.
Thank you, Councillor Galt. Does anyone else wish to speak to the motion? I'll just say something before I move it, before we vote on it. It is the first time without councillors in this process, which we made as a council group, and I think it definitely is the right decision. So may have been a little messy tonight, but I will be supporting this motion. I think it's always difficult with community groups, with the changing costs. It's, you know, having been on the other side as well, it's hard. And when you lose a sponsor or a partner in something, it makes it difficult. And I think the council officers and the grant committee have done a great job in finding a solution for this. It's a very important community event, and we glad that we're taking this process and supporting it if it gets voted on tonight. But I just want to acknowledge the work of the council officers in this and bringing it together, and the grant committee. Thank you. Councillor Pattis, do you wish to say something as the mover to close the debate?
No, Madam Mayor, there's been a good discussion.
Thank you. I will now put the motion to the vote. All those in favour? All those against? All those abstaining? I declare the motion carried. Let's move to item 8.3, the contract 2025-26, the IT end user device refresh. This item will be introduced by Nigel Morris, Director of Customer and Transformation.
Thank you, Chair. I'm going to ask David English, the Chief Transformation and Technology Officer, to introduce this to us. David.
Thanks, Nigel. Thank you, Mayor. The computers and monitor screens used by council staff and library services have reached the end of their effective working life and are now ready for replacement. The current computer fleet was procured in early 2019 and uses monitor screens procured some 4 years earlier. The replacement fleet will consist of approximately 100 desktop and 900 laptop computers, all using the latest version of Microsoft Windows to ensure security and reliability, and some 1,600 monitor screens that conform to modern workplace standards. The new fleet has a much lower energy usage and carbon footprint than the devices they replace. This new generation of IT devices are much more environmentally sustainable, utilising as much recycled and recyclable material as possible. Council has taken advantage of the Victorian State Government's negotiated pricing under the Department of Government Services End User Computing Equipment contract. This contract allowed us to evaluate the offerings from a panel of pre-approved suppliers that gave us better value for money and reduced risk by leveraging the state's buying power and pre-negotiated contract terms and conditions. Of the 6 suppliers on the panel, we requested proposals from 4 that were able to supply to our requirements and received 2 fully qualified proposals. This report recommends Dell Technologies for our replacement fleet to provide our team and our publicly facing technology with the required equipment that they need. Thank you.
Councillors, are there any questions of officers? Councillor Galt.
Thanks very much, Mayor. Can I just get you to clarify, is this a purchase contract or a lease contract?
It's a lease contract.
Lease contract. Did we consider the other options of purchasing this equipment?
Yes, we did. This enabled us to procure within the bounds of our available budget, and it allowed us to do a whole of life cycle pricing and turned out to be the most cost-effective approach that we were able to come up with.
And I'm sure you can't tell us the difference, but it is a significant difference between the two.
Unfortunately, I can't tell you in
No, that's fine, but it is significant.
It is.
By what you're saying, these are considered, the current fleet that we've got is considered out of date after 4 years.
That is correct.
Is that related to the brand and the models that we've got, or are there other models and brands that survive longer than 4 years?
That's a 2-part question, Councillor. The first part is 4 years is the typical lifespan of a corporate device, and that tends to be the experience across all organisations. Are there devices that last longer? Yes, they are, but they have a significantly higher purchase price.
Right, thank you.
Councillor Abuki.
Thank you, through you, Mayor. Thank you for the report, Mr English. And I just have a question around, do we know why only 2 responded? Do the low responses reflect market limitations or something about our process, such as the tight tender response time? And are we satisfied that we are making a decision based on 2 responses?
Thank you, Councillor. The request for quote was initially sent to all 6 vendors listed on the state purchasing contract panel on April the 3rd to submit their pricing using the state purchasing contract pricing model, and that was due by the end of April, so there was a 4-week period to submit pricing. Out of the 6 vendors, 1 supplier responded at the end of April advising that they couldn't submit a proposal that would meet the requirements for council and withdrew their bid. 1 supplier never submitted a proposal and stopped taking calls for status of proposal. 1 supplier was unable to meet council's requirements and withdrew. 1 supplier also could not meet council's requirements, attempted to negotiate an alternative and then subsequently withdrew. And then the 2 we received were from market-leading suppliers, one of which is Dell, the other was Hewlett-Packard.
Councillor Hollingsworth.
Thank you, Mayor. My questions follow on from Councillor Goltz with regard to the lease, and I understand why you've opted for lease. My question is, if there are pieces of equipment that are deemed defective, with lease option, does that guarantee that you'll be able to replace the equipment, whereas typically if it was purchased outright, there'd be more problems going through warranty?
Thank you, Councillor. Yes, under the terms of the lease, the vendor is responsible for maintaining the equipment, and we're able to return and have them either replaced or refurbished as required.
Which is excellent, so there should be no downtime. And if I may just close by saying I'm delighted to see the redundant goods will be donated to charity or repurposed in some way, rather than just disposed of. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councillor Pattis.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. My question is regarding, and I know this is not to do with the contract, but the actual specification to the suppliers. We're asking for over 4 years, which is appropriate, 930 new laptops, potentially, 100 desktop PCs and 1,650 monitors. Now, the number of monitors seems to me fairly excessive, although I'm thinking someone has a laptop, they're going to have a monitor in the office and then a monitor maybe at home. So the question is, have we thought clearly about the numbers that we're going to need, allowing for the transformation project that is happening at the moment? And also, have we made assumptions about whether people are going to be continuing to work from home and whether in fact are we going to have more office-based people or less office-based people? It just seems like a lot of monitors that we're specifying, and I'd just like to know the thinking behind that, please.
Thank you, Councillor. In terms of the number of monitors, we did an extensive survey of the monitors that have been deployed across the council offices. This does not take into account any monitors at home. Most monitor setups are usually a 2-screen environment, so 2 24-inch monitors, which explains the numbers. Uniquely, we are now offering the choice of 2 24-inch monitors or a 32-inch wide monitor, because there are some applications, most notably in areas that require extensive graphics or very large spreadsheets that require the extra screen real estate. And we consulted extensively with the users to get detailed potential usage, which gave us the number of monitors that we proposed to purchase. We did look at the monitor fleet. They are mostly in excess of 10 years old and conform to outdated standards that cause strain on the eyes. So we are moving to a much more modern environment that has eye strain protection. So for occupational health and safety reasons, we will be replacing the bulk of our monitor fleet.
Can I ask a further question, Madam Mayor?
Sure.
So if someone has 2 monitors, how about, so they're not using the monitor on their laptop, I'm assuming. They're closing their laptop and using the 2 monitors, and then when they go home, they can use the monitor on the laptop. So, because effectively, we've got 3 monitors, but we can't use the laptop monitor if we've got the 2 other monitors. Is that the current environment? I'm just trying to understand why the number of monitors.
Thank you, Councillor. The experience that we've had through our survey is that most people have the 2 monitors with the laptop open in the middle, because that's where the camera is. And so they have taken advantage of all the screen real estate they've got. That's a fairly standard setup. Setups range from having 2 monitors because people appreciate the extra separated screens. Some people do prefer a wide screen because of the nature of the work that they do. Being able to cater for each of their needs is something that we've been able to do for the first time. In the past, it was you took what you got. Now we're able to really align the equipment with what people's jobs actually are. Also, people have dual monitor setups today, and we wanted to make sure that we gave them at least as good as or better than what they had now.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Nolan.
Thank you, Mayor. Through you. Continuing the theme on monitors, 1,650 monitors, and I think monitors being a static device, and I do appreciate the last few years they've got more energy efficient, they got wider, they got curved, but I'm just wondering, first of all, are we going to get can we get an extended warranty on the monitors specifically? And if we've used monitors for, some of them are up to 10 years old, could we foresee in the contract and the lease terms something like a 4-year plus, I'm just making this up, but a 4-year plus 2-year plus 2-year lease arrangement where we have the ability to extend so that we're not sitting here in 4 years and they're taking them away from us?
Thank you, Councillor. I really appreciate that question. So with the depreciating assets, the laptops and the desktops, that is leased to return. With the monitors, that's leased to own. And so we'll be taking ownership of those monitors at the end of the 4-year lease cycle, and so they'll remain our property, which I hope addresses your question.
Thank you.
Councillor Osborne-Smith.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd like to ask a question about the procurement policy in terms of why it is that we are looking to do a wholesale change of all laptops, or the vast majority of laptops and monitors in at the same time. My experience, albeit limited, is that often procurement models have a rolling series of replacements. It might be 20% one year, 20% the next year, etc., so that perhaps those in the most greatest need, the ones that drive their computers very hard or use their monitors a lot, perhaps might get upgraded first, and over time the cycle repeats itself, and in that way we're not facing a decision again, a $2 million decision again in 4 years or 6 years. Would you just help me understand the thinking behind that and why it's not a rolling series of replacements rather than a single one? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. In terms of the procurement, back in February 2019, the Council authorised procurement of a new fleet. It was a procurement model that involved purchasing the machines. So that generation of equipment is pretty much what we have today. And some of you actually have those machines. They are the same generation that was issued. Some of those are physically a little younger, having been procured later, but the bulk of the fleet are that 2019 generation. Very few machines have been purchased since then because the numbers have been relatively stable. So we are looking at a fleet that is effectively deprecated and end of life. And one of the things that you want to do when you're running one of these fleets is to keep them as homogeneous as possible. You don't want to have lots of different device types. So the opportunity has arisen for us to replace our fleet. The contract does allow us to return all the devices that we have today to the supplier, which is Dell Technologies, and the cost of returning those devices is included as a refund to us. So that is part of how we're funding this. And that allows us to have a homogeneous fleet. So we are looking at the same kind of devices. We're able to support those devices much more effectively rather than having old lagging devices. Also, you'll notice in the briefing document, we are going to upgrade to Windows 11. The machines we have, that generation really struggles with that new software. So from a support perspective, it is much easier and more cost effective for us to replace all the fleet with a new device than we're able to start supporting on Windows 11 and keep everything at an appropriate level of safety and security.
Thank you. Councillor Hollingsworth.
Just wanted to foreshadow, I'm happy to move the motion at the appropriate time. Thank you.
I think that time could be right now.
Thank you. I propose to support the officer recommendation, and I'd like to speak to the motion when it's appropriate. Thank you.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Baillieu.
So seconded, Chair.
To assist the mover, is anyone opposed? No. Councillor Hollingsworth.
Thank you. Mr English, thank you for your presentation and for answering all of our questions, and you clearly have a very strong and sound knowledge of the IT system. I think all the queries that we had have been resolved, and thank you for your due diligence over this process. And I put to my councillor colleagues that we support the motion before us. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll now put the motion to the vote. All those in favour? I declare the motion carried. Thank you, Mr English. We'll now move to item 8.4, temporary recruitment panel contract. The item will be introduced by Marianne Palastides, Executive Manager, PC&D.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and good evening, councillors. The report before you seeks Council's approval to award contract number 2025-122 for temporary agency labour hire services via the Municipal Association of Victoria's procurement contract, which establishes a supply panel for temporary agency labour hire with 38 recruitment agencies. Council requires suitably qualified agencies to provide temporary labour hire for short-term position vacancies. Such services are critical to assist departments across council to manage operational requirements for business critical activities and to continue to deliver services for council and the community. The tender process for this contract was conducted by MAV Procurement, acting as agent for council, and complies with the requirements of the Local Government Act 2020 and council's procurement policy. The MAV contract commenced on the 1st of October 2023 and expires on the 30th of September 2026 with an extension of two-year terms. The expected benefits of opting into the MAV contract and establishing a different business model includes a large pool of labour hire agencies for business areas to consider, thus supporting organisational needs, a high quality and broad candidate pool for recruitment requests, greater governance, oversight and controls, and generally better temporary workforce and financial management. It's noted that the MAV, as a trusted contractual provider, is well utilised across local government. The officer's recommendations outlined in the report for your consideration, and Madam Mayor, I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you. Councillors, are there any questions of officers? Councillor Pattis.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. My question is not to do with the contract, but more to do with the specification of how many people we may need or how many roles we may need to fill. Just a general question, have we taken into account our transformation project and the impact it will have on our business and our organisation over the next few years? And I mean by that the fact that potentially there are going to be roles, there are going to be roles that are going to be changed and that potentially may require more temporary people for a short period of time. I just want to make sure that there's been strong alignment between what we're doing here with the panel contract and the transformation project, and we've thought clearly about how we're going to utilise these services.
Through you, Mayor, this particular contract is for a supplier, a panel of suppliers, so there is no requirement or guarantee that we have to assign any particular expenditure to any of the suppliers. It is an option utilised for a contingent workforce when we need it to continue with our business critical activities, when there's an absence, generally of short term, but may be extended depending on what's occurring. So for instance, it could be illness, it could be difficulty in recruiting for a specialised position, and those services are required for that purpose.
Thank you.
Councillor Pattis, finished. Councillor Franco.
Thank you, Mayor. Through you, noting that the MAV contract commenced in 2023, could officers explain why council didn't go along with this approach back then, and and how that contrasted with the approach we did take and when that was taken up, and why?
I might respond to that, given that Marianne wasn't here at the time.
I suspected that might be the case.
At the time, the thinking really was that the previous supplier, which was in itself an innovation for council at the time, would provide a better option. But what we've really looked at is how that's worked, and it is our view that there will be much better scrutiny of the decisions made in relation to temporary hire with the model which is now being suggested. The model we had before was in place prior to the MAV model in any case, so it was already in our organisation, if you like. But over the time, we've looked at how it's working and come to the view that we can do better.
Thank you. And one final question, just noting that the contract has little more than 12 months to run. Do we have any insight into what's coming next and whether the MAV will go out again?
It's difficult to call at this point in time. However, this particular contract does have an option, an extension option of two-year terms. So it is likely that it would be extended up until 2030.
Thank you.
Councillor Abuki.
Thank you, through you, Chair. Thank you for the report. Do we know how, if it's not confidential, whether the MAV procurement, the option that we're considering tonight is used by many other councils?
Through you, Mayor, I can't tell you exactly how many, but they are definitely used by other councils.
So you've had some good reports through word of mouth as well?
We have.
Great, thank you.
Councillors, I'm in search of a motion. Councillor Abuki.
I'm happy to move the motion on the screen, thank you.
Do I have a seconder? Councillor Franco.
Happy to second.
To assist the mover, is anyone opposed? Councillor Abuki, would you like to speak to the motion?
Just briefly, that the timing seems to be good in that we've got a 1-year period and then an option to renew if we're happy with the process, and I hope the adjustment is smooth for the staff who's involved. Thank you.
I'll now put the motion to a vote. All those in favour? I declare the motion carried. We'll now move on to item 8.5, Materials, Cartage and Leaf Disposal Services. This item will be introduced by David Shepherd, Manager of Environmental Sustainability and Open Space.
Thank you, and through you, Madam Mayor. The purpose of this report is to consider the award of contract 2025/29, Materials, Cartage, Leaf Disposal Services for waste services, including green waste, landfill, tree mulch and road sweeper waste from Q Depot. The contract's for an initial term of 4 years with a possible 1-year extension period. The work under this contract fluctuates over the course of the year, with a peak period during our bulk leaf collection program in autumn to avoid excessive stockpiling of material at the Q Depot. Within the contract, there are a number of sustainability initiatives as we turn our sweeper waste into organic fertiliser, green waste into mulch and logwood into recycled products. We received 2 submissions for this contract, and after evaluation, the recommendation is to award to Garden State Mulching Services. The officer recommendation is on the screen, and I commend that to you.
Thank you, Mr Shepherd. Councillors, are there any questions of officers? Then I am in search of a motion. Councillor Nolan.
Happy to move the officer's recommendation be accepted.
Do I have a seconder? Councillor Baillieu.
So seconded, Chair.
To assist the mover, is there anyone opposed? Councillor Nolan, would you like to speak to the motion?
I'd like to thank the officers for their work in putting this together. It's a clear document that been brought to us, clear recommendation, so very appreciative, and recommend to fellow councillors we adopt it.
Thank you. I'll now put the motion to the vote. All those in favour? I declare the motion carried. Thank you. We'll now move to item 8.6, contract number 2025/11, Ferndale Park Surface Improvement Works. This item will be introduced by David Shepherd, Manager of Environmental Sustainability and Open Space.
Thank you, and through you, Madam Mayor. The purpose of this report is to consider the award of contract 2025/11 for the renewal of the playing surface at Ferndale Park. This is the second of 3 grounds to be reconstructed this coming summer, which, along with our ongoing maintenance and renovation programs, will ensure that we have our grounds in excellent condition for community sport. The works here include demolition of the playing surface, bulk earthworks, installation of new irrigation and drainage systems, including some water storage, new LED sports lights, a synthetic cricket pitch, AFL goals and resurfacing works. The football club will have their pre-season training accommodated elsewhere in Burundara, and the cricket club will be supported with alternative training and playing venue while these works are completed. The works will commence in September, with the ground reopening in late March or early April 2026. We received a number of high-quality submissions for these works, and after a thorough evaluation process, the recommendation is to award to Global Turf Projects, as shown on the screen, and I commend that recommendation to you.
Thank you. Councillors, are there any questions of officers? Councillor Osborne-Smith.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and perhaps this question may be best directed to Mr Freer following our conversation today. I'm just wondering if you could take this opportunity to explain to my fellow councillors around the Horseshoe tonight about the overlap between this work and the upcoming Ferndale Pavilion, in particular the consideration currently being given in the design of that pavilion to avoid having to construct a mesh safety net fence for errant footballers and footballs, I should say, or balls, and the consequence or the potential opportunity of changing marginally the boundaries of the Ferndale Park Oval. And you did, I think, point out to me that there would be no problems you felt, provided the decision on that location of the pavilion and the like was made promptly. But I'm just wondering if you could care just to clarify that point for the benefit of my fellow councillors tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, and through you, Madam Mayor. Effectively, they're two separate contracts that are engaged on the same site, one for Oval Works and their second future contract for the reconstruction of the pavilion. The design work on the pavilion is currently underway, and there's been some consideration around the componentry of the pavilion as it relates to the Oval. At the moment, it's immediately on the eastern end or goal line of the existing Oval, and the discussion today sought to clarify the ability under this contract to make any amendment to the location of the goalposts and whether that would impact the design that has been set out for this tender. And the answer to that is no. Any minor works or minor changes would not materially impact this contract. However, in saying that, we are far better to resolve any of those matters prior to any work starting on the ground.
So just to clarify, that's really only about 3 or 4 weeks that we'd really need a settled position on the design of that pavilion.
Through you, Madam Mayor, yes, as Mr Shepherd has said, we intend to have the works commencing in September. We try and get our works done over that period to enable the grounds to then be back in place for the winter season, so we need to move swiftly.
Thank you very much.
Councillor Galt.
Thank you very much, Mayor. I note that the majority, thank you for the thoroughly detailed report, but I note that the majority of the works are civil works, but there's one item that's electrical. Why would we mix an electrical item in with a predominantly civil contract?
Thank you, and through you, Madam Mayor. The electrical work is associated with the new sports lighting for this reserve. Typically what we do when we're undertaking a sports ground renewal is we look at all of the infrastructure associated with the playing of the sport and try to undertake all of those works at once, and we put it all into the one contract. There is the ability for the tenderers to subcontract within the tender specification or within their submission. And that's what's happened in this case, is that they've identified an appropriate subcontractor to undertake the electrical works.
So if I just asked, you're reasonably confident that this doesn't add an extra management component to the price, because someone needs to manage the multidisciplinary nature that it's now become?
Thank you, and through you, Madam Mayor, we are confident that we are getting absolute value for money through the combination of a number of project elements within this particular project, and that we are getting the best outcome that we can financially for the organisation.
Councillor Franco.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll foreshadow that I'll be moving a motion, but I'd like to ask a question. I note that the report references a synthetic cricket pitch. Is there any opportunity to consider synthetic turf in the goal squares and perhaps in the centre for Australian rules football. These are often high use areas that get worn down very quickly, and it's a treatment that we have looked at with other sports at other sports fields. I appreciate it may or may not be, and I don't know if this is an issue that's been touched upon.
Thank you, and through you, Madam Mayor. The synthetic cricket pitch in the middle of the ground, obviously set up for cricket during summertime. During the wintertime, there is a wicket cover that is laid down over the top of it, so you can play AFL sport over it. In the other high use areas...
Is that cover, synthetic or natural?
It is a synthetic, which is filled with a softer material so that it's safe for the playing of AFL sport over the top of it. And then in the high wear areas like the goal squares that you mentioned, there is the opportunity to knit in a synthetic so that they can take higher levels of usage as part of this project, as well as we have done at Dorothy Laver Reserve in some high wear areas there.
Thank you.
Councillor Obuki.
Thank you, through you, Mayor. I just have a question around support for the cricket teams who will be playing during the summer season when the works will be undertaken. Could you please confirm whether we'll be able to provide fundraising spaces in addition to the use of other grounds during their season, as many clubs rely on fundraising activities for income?
Thank you, and through you, Madam Mayor, the Cricket Club will retain full access to the pavilion at Ferndale Park throughout the construction of the sports ground. There will be no limitations on their usage of that pavilion as per their normal licence arrangements, so they will be able to undertake fundraising activities in the existing pavilion.
Thank you, councillors. As there don't seem to be any further questions, Councillor Franco.
I'd like to move the officer's recommendation. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Baillieu.
So seconded, Chair.
To assist the mover, is there anyone opposed? No. Councillor Franco, would you like to speak to the motion?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I'd like to thank the officers for bringing this to us. Ferndale Oval is an iconic location in the heart of Glen Iris, and this is one of a number of significant improvements to the precinct and to the surrounds of Ferndale. We've recently completed a new shared path through along the side, which is a preliminary greenway. We've, through the clubs, got a new scoreboard, and council officers will be bringing forward a new design for the pavilion and the complete upgrade of the playing surface. So it will be a spectacular and fabulous community asset when the work's complete. And I'm very pleased, and I commend the motion to my colleagues. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll now put the motion to the vote. All those in favour? I declare the motion carried. We'll now move to the last report, 8.7, the draft Myrtle and Macleay Parks Master Plan. This item will be introduced by David Shepherd.
Thank you, and through you, Madam Mayor, the draft Myrtle Macleay Park Master Plan has been developed following a council resolution in 2022 to work with all of the sporting clubs and local residents to develop this plan. The parks provide a major sporting precinct with soccer, baseball, cricket, netball and school sport all played within the reserve. It's also a key open space for the local community, providing walking paths, a playground, scout hall and general open space. All of these uses lead to a very busy park, resulting in some traffic challenges at times. The master plan does improve some improvements to the traffic flow within the park, although investigations are ongoing and consultation feedback could further influence the final outcome and layout of the parking and traffic solutions. The master plan seeks to improve other park amenities for the local community and sporting clubs with improved pathways, renewed sporting infrastructure, increased tree planting and more park furniture, shade, toilets and public lighting. Not all of the suggestions from stakeholders were able to be included as we seek to balance the various uses of the park. The intent is that the master plan is now tested with the broader community and their feedback is considered before the master plan is revised and a final version brought to council for adoption. The recommendation is on the screen and I commend that to you.
Thank you. Councillors, are there any questions of officers? Councillor Pattis.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This is a very, very important asset for our city. And also when we're creating a master plan, it's a really critical and important time for the city because it creates something that is supposed to last a long time. So and also because we're going to go out to consultation, community consultation, it's because of this that I feel that we're lacking something in this consultation process in terms of the content of what's going to go out to the community. I think what we need to do is and I'm going to ask a question how we do it. I think we need to pull out the things that are contentious, and they seem to be buried in I think it's attachment 3. And things like, for example, what do we do with the netball court number 3? There are some differing views in our community. What do we do in terms of access? I think it's one of the streets, neighbourhood streets. Should we open that up?
Sorry, Councillor Pattis, I'm going to interrupt, but what's your actual question to the officers at the moment?
So the question to the officers is, how do we create a document that goes to the community that is not sort of 50 pages of a consultant's report, but actually summarises for them so that they can quickly understand what the contentious issues are and they can therefore provide feedback. I'm worried that when this goes to the community, it is so much information that we're going to get maybe 1 or 2 interested people and we're not going to get the engagement that we look for.
Thank you, Councillor Pattis. I'll give the officers a chance to answer that question.
Thank you, and through you, Madam Mayor. We have worked with our Communications Department on developing up appropriate consultation materials for this master plan. One of the key parts is the way that this is presented on our website, which the harder copy material will point people to. That's largely a visual demonstration and gives you the opportunity to dig into the various elements of the master plan and find out detail of what's happening or what's proposed within the master plan in that format. It is a very long document, obviously, the master plan, but using our communication department effectively, I think that we can get messages out around what are the key challenges, what are the key things for people to look into and where we're most interested in people's feedback so that we do get quality feedback and a reasonable volume of feedback from our community on this.
Through you, Madam Mayor, I'm just concerned that I think we should put out there some of the options that maybe we have not, or that we have said aren't along with our policy.
Can you turn this into a question, Councillor Pattis?
Okay, so the question is that in the communication strategy, can we please highlight some of the controversial issues so that we get engagement? I'm worried that this is a maintenance report rather than something that could be really, really, really important, or where the community does something that is unexpected.
Thanks, Councillor Pattis. Mr. Shepherd.
Thank you, and through you, Madam Mayor. We have developed this master plan based on feedback from a number of stakeholders already, considered a lot of their feedback. We will obviously give people the opportunity to comment on any elements of the master plan that they like to. As I said earlier, we're working with our communications department to put out appropriate information to the community so that they can give us constructive feedback on everything that's proposed within the master plan.
Thank you. Councillor Nolan.
Thank you, Madam Chair, through you. Thank you, Mr. Shepherd, for the report. I do note the parks, Macaulay, heavily used, especially on Saturdays, and in the report, an estimated 4,500 weekly sport participants in summer and winter. That's massive. And we do know, and I've been on a tour there and I've got a long association with the park, we've got a major problem with parking and traffic on Saturdays in particular on Belmore Road, adjacent to the netball courts. So in reviewing the report, pedestrian safety 3.2, improved traffic flow 3.4.
Councillor Nolan, I am going to need a question.
So the question that I'm getting to is, can we ensure, and specifically ensure in our community consultation, that we understand and look at options for the volume of people and kids parking either side of Belmore Road and the volume of people on foot and people exiting traffic on the south side of Belmore Road, because I think there's a number of options. My fellow councillor Sinfeld has one option to address that. I've come up with another option involving traffic.
Thank you, Councillor Nolan. So you've asked your question. I might just jump over to the council officers.
Thank you, and through you, Madam Mayor, as I mentioned in the introduction, we do intend to do some further work on traffic studies and analysis and projections for future usage of the reserve and how we best deal with that as part of the master plan process. So that'll run in parallel with the consultation period to inform our final design.
So could I just have a question, please? So, Mr. Shepherd, is that in parallel to community consultation, we're also looking at the traffic separate to whatever comes back from community, is that correct?
Separate and in conjunction with, yes.
Thank you.
Councillor Hollingsworth.
Thank you, Mayor. My question will be quick. Just to Mr. Shepherd. Will the consultation be extended to the Burundara Fortnightly feed, which is an online email option for community to see, for example, master plans?
Yes, it will.
Thank you.
Councillor Sinfield.
Thank you. I have two questions. Why is Vic Roads not listed as an external stakeholder?
Thank you, and through you, Madam Mayor, that's an oversight and we can certainly ensure that they are consulted with appropriately.
Thank you. And my second question, in light of the traffic and congestion related matters raised as questions by my colleagues this evening, is this ready to go out for community consultation or is it premature?
Thank you, and through you, Madam Mayor. We think that we will get valuable feedback on the way that the master plan is presented at the moment. It's been a long time in its development and there's been a lot of work with stakeholders who are heavily invested in the reserve. They're keen to see something come out from council. We do acknowledge that there are some challenges in the traffic space that do need some further research and some further work, and that may result in a different solution in the final master plan. But we do think that the way the master plan is presented at the moment, we will get quality feedback from the community through this process.
Thank you.
Councillor Galt.
Just picking up on those points, if I may, Mr. Shepherd, is there any risk if we go out separately in the traffic issues that it may, and it comes up with a different solution, that it may invalidate the overall master plan consultation?
Thank you, and through you, Madam Mayor. We're consulting on the master plan itself here. We will be informed around traffic challenges and traffic solutions as part of that process. It's not in, the potential solutions won't impact on the other elements of the master plan in terms of sporting ground usage and those sorts of spaces. It may impact on pedestrian pathways and those elements, but it's not likely to be significant. So I think that, yes, there may be some amendments to the master plan as a result of if there are changes to the traffic solutions, but it's not likely to be significant, and it's not likely to change the majority of the master plan, which is the sporting spaces that are contained within the reserve.
Councillor Pattis.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd like to foreshadow a motion, please.
Thank you, Councillor Pattis. Councillor Sinfield.
As the ward councillor, I was going to do the same thing, but Councillor Pattis has beaten me to it, it seems.
Councillor Sinfield, through you, Madam Mayor. Councillor Sinfield, I'm happy to, I was going to move an amendment, but I have to foreshadow the motion before I can move the amendment, so that's why should I speak to the motion, Madam Mayor?
I'm just going to go to more questions before we move to a motion. Are there any further questions? No? Okay, so Councillor Pattis, there is no
Thank you,
motion at
Madam
the
Mayor.
moment. You are putting a motion, I understand.
I'm going to put a motion. I'm just going to talk to it first before I put the motion.
Well, actually, could you just specify what a motion might be that you want to put?
The motion I'd like to put is what the officers are recommending, the first 2 points, and then a third point, which is that in going to the community for this consultation, we present some scenarios and some options. So we make those very evident rather than burying them. I don't know how best to say that, but what I'd like to do is I'd like to make it really obvious when we go to the community what some of the possible scenarios are and options are.
Madam Chair, perhaps if I could assist, the plan doesn't propose scenarios or options. And so Councillor Pattis would be introducing something entirely different to what's actually before you this evening, and would need to therefore define what those scenarios and options might be, because the plan doesn't do that. And I don't know whether Councillor Pattis has thought about it, but it might be an option for him to allow Councillor Sinfield to actually move a motion, whatever that might be. He might like to second it, and then if he wishes to make an amendment, he could do so, which is another way in which this could be approached.
I'm happy to do it that way, Madam Mayor, to allow Councillor Sinfield to move it, and then I'll propose an amendment. So can I withdraw my motion?
Councillor Sinfield.
Not sure whether I want to move a motion under these circumstances to then have it usurped by an amendment. Anyway, alas, I shall move the officer's recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor Sinfield. Councillor Pattis?
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Are you clear, Councillor Pattis, that if you second, you can't amend the motion?
Then I won't second.
Do I have a seconder for the motion? Councillor Hollingsworth.
Happy to second, thank you.
Is anybody opposed to the motion as it is?
I am, Madam Mayor.
Right.
I'd like to propose an amendment.
Okay. Councillor Pattis, can you articulate your amendment, please?
Okay. I don't think we should be going to the community for a master plan the same way we
No, I don't need you to
go.
talk to it. I need you to articulate clearly what the amendment is to the proposed motion.
The amendment is that what we go to the community with is the master plan and possible the things that are controversial or the things that have been proposed but that we have not
This
put
is
in the
not
master
an
plan.
actionable motion, Councillor Pattis. You need to actually give clear guidelines, clearly articulated points to add to the motion that is on the screen.
I'd like to move a
Put motion.
Councillor Sinfield, it's not helpful not allowing another councillor to actually state their opinion.
So, Councillor Pattis, I'm just going to ask you one more time. If you are able to clearly articulate... Okay, sorry, Councillor Pattis, can you please hold? Do I have a seconder for Councillor Sinfield's put motion?
Happy to second.
Thank Councillor Hollingsworth, thank you.
Madam Mayor, would it be helpful if I say what I'm trying to achieve?
Not just yet, Councillor Pattis, if you can just wait, please.
Okay. Side comments aren't helpful.
you are not satisfied that what has been put by Councillor Pattis is an amendment, that particularity, those are your words, in the interim, and as a result, following that ruling, Councillor Sinfield
Okay, just for clarification, Councillor Pattis, I didn't allow your amendment because it wasn't you didn't clarify what the amendment was. And by disallowing that amendment, in the meantime, Councillor Sinfield has put a motion which has been seconded by Councillor Hollingsworth. So we will now...
Can I speak against the motion, Madam Mayor?
No, can you just please wait, Councillor Pattis?
Can I move a motion amendment?
That's it. Yeah. Okay. There's no debate on a put motion. We're just going to vote on Councillor Sinfield's motion.
What's the motion?
Am I able to move
There
an
is
amendment?
no, we are going to put this, we're going to deal with this motion. It's a procedure motion, and then we will...
What's the motion, Madam Mayor, that we're voting on?
It's the closure of the original motion. It's procedure motion number 3 in our governance. Okay, so can I ask for a vote? All in favour of the motion on the screen as put by Councillor Sinfield?
No, sorry, Madam Mayor, I think we're voting on the put.
Sorry, Councillor Franco, I'm being advised. Thank you. All in favour of the procedural motion?
So the put motion is 5 and 5.
Yep.
So go all against first.
All against the put motion?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. So you've got 5. Turn off the mic.
So the put motion was 5 and 5, so I'm using my casting vote and I will vote against it. So now, Councillor Nolan, you wish to put an amendment?
I do, Madam Mayor, through you. I'd like to add a third point. Would you like me to read it out? It's about
Very much so.
12 words. To receive a further report on traffic management and pedestrian crossing on and across Belmore Road, adjacent to Macleay Park.
We're just waiting to put this up on screen. Thank you, Councillor Nolan.
change the master plan.
Councillor Nolan, are you happy with the amendment as put up on the screen?
Yes, I am. Thank
Do
you.
I have a seconder for this amendment? Councillor Baillieu.
So seconded, Chair.
To assist the mover, is there anyone opposed? Councillor Nolan, as the mover, do you wish to speak?
Very briefly, thank you, Mayor. Look, I mentioned earlier there are 4,000 to 4,500 weekly sport participants, mainly on Saturday. And I do think the traffic on Belmore Road could have some impact on the master plan. I think they are interrelated, and I am now adding that to the amendment and trusting the officers can deal with that interdependency.
Thank you. Councillor Baillieu is the seconder. Do you wish to speak to that amendment? Does any other councillor wish to speak or comment? Councillor Hollingsworth.
Thank you, Mayor. My concern with the amendment is that it could compromise the release of the master plan, and I know the officers have provided assurance that they will be talking and have already spoken to traffic management. So I just don't see the need for this, and I just feel that it might compromise the integrity of the master plan consultation.
Thank you. Councillor Osborne-Smith.
Yeah, I understand the thrust of the amendment, and I agree with it, but I think the words could be clearer, because what it refers to is traffic management as well as the pedestrian crossing, and I think what you're keen to see is the pedestrian crossing issue looked at. So the words traffic management are a broader term, and I'm keen to understand whether you want to confine this amendment to the pedestrian crossing issue on Belmore Road, or are you also seeking a report that may further investigate traffic options onto the adjacent side street? I forget its name, which I think has already been canvassed in the report. So could you just perhaps clear
Councillor
that?
Nolan, would you like to?
Thank you, Councillor Osborne-Smith. There are a number of options, including signalisation of the intersection of Belmore Road and Buchanan Avenue. That's one option that's been suggested. Another option is to move the existing pedestrian crossing, which is in line with Baldwin High School. Another option is to put another pedestrian crossing in. So it is all interrelated. It could be traffic lights for vehicles and pedestrians, or could be pedestrians only. So I think there's a fair bit to work through.
Councillor Franco.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to ask a question of clarification in relation to the proposed amendment, whether from our colleague, Councillor Nolan, or from officers. The report is not necessarily a report to Council Committee. It's a report getting some advice on this matter, and is not intended to hold up the consultation on the master plan, or how does it relate to the master plan? I read the amendment as we separately seeking this, but meanwhile we go out in relation to the master plan.
Councillor Nolan, do you want to clarify what your intent?
Look, I think there is potentially some interdependency. Potentially most of the master plan work can stand alone, but I don't want to rule out, for example, if we get traffic lights at Buchanan Avenue and Belmore Road, for example, then I wouldn't want to rule out a path that then comes down off Buchanan Avenue and is integrated with the overflow car park. So I'll trust the officers to do walk and chew gum on this, which is why I've just added as the third point.
Does any other councillor wish to speak or comment? Councillor Hollingsworth?
Thank you for your indulgence, Mayor. I'm becoming increasingly uncomfortable with the way this motion's heading, and I'd like to put to my councillor colleagues that we seek a deferral for this motion to come back at another date, so lay on the table. I just think it's becoming very ambiguous of what council is seeking here.
Do I have a seconder for that? Councillor Sinfield.
Can I just suggest some governance advice first, please, because I don't know that laying it on the table is going to be the best procedural motion to enact a deferral.
Shall we seek to adjourn the meeting?
I'm sure the governance advice will be quick.
Okay.
Perhaps, Madam Mayor, if I could assist whilst governance is looking at that point. What's being proposed by Councillor Nolan is something we would do as a matter of course, because you are actually going to receive feedback in relation to traffic issues from the community. And as part of us coming back to you with a response to the information received through consultation, we will be addressing those issues as best we can. And I'm not saying that in order to suggest that 3 isn't required. I'm saying it to suggest that 3 is something which would be done as a matter of course, and perhaps therefore it ought not to raise some of the concerns it appears to be.
Councillor Hollingsworth, you prepared for, you still requesting the same request, or based on what Mr Storer has said, you're more comfortable with this now?
If the motion is put as it is, I'm not comfortable. If we could lay it on the table to allow council an additional period of time to talk through these issues.
Madam Mayor, I guess my question would be what's achieved by laying it on the table? The information we have right now is the information we have. So what we're actually really seeking is what's the community thinking about these same issues to further inform how you might respond to them yourself. So I'd suggest that laying it on the table is not really going to take you any further. What will take you further is getting feedback from the community and then our response to that.
I understand. From my perspective, I find that this would put the community in a situation where they be assuming that council have not considered any of traffic impacts or ramifications or pedestrian access, and I know that we have. And I know that the officers have invested considerable time, including our own traffic and transport manager and other officers here this evening. I'm concerned that this particular additional clause will confuse the community, and I'm not comfortable with it being put as it is at the moment. So I would be voting against this, but that's just my opinion.
So happy to proceed for now? Do you have a seconder for laying it on the table? No? No. Okay. Any further councillors wish to speak? As there are no more councillors wishing to speak, I'll go back to Councillor Nolan as the mover for a right of reply.
I think I've said most of what I want to say, and I thank the CEO, Mr Storer, for some of those comments. I think this is really important given the volume of traffic on a Saturday morning, particularly around the netball courts, that we get not only the master plan right, but we get the traffic management right. So I'll recommend that to fellow councillors.
Thank you. I will now put the amendment to the vote. All those in favour? All those against? Vote twice. So I declare the motion carried.
The amendment carried.
The amendment carried, and now we will move to the substantive motion. Councillor Pattis, understand that you have considered your amendment.
Thank you. I'd like to move an amendment being point 4, that the public communication process on the master plan includes a section on the various scenarios that could have been adopted in the master plan, but were deemed not aligned or something to that effect.
Let's pause it so that we can get on screen.
I'm trying to
We're just going to get
highlight.
this on screen. Thanks, Councillor Pattis.
And then I'll speak to it.
Well, I need to get a seconder before you speak to it.
Sufficiently clear as chair.
Madam Mayor, it's more about the scenarios that were not accepted.
Councillor Pattis, can you wait till I call on you to speak, please?
Okay?
Is there a seconder for this motion, for this amendment?
Madam Mayor, can I highlight a problem with the amendment? I'm sorry to complicate this further.
You know that there's a problem, but there's no seconder, so it doesn't matter.
Oh, okay, you've got no seconder. Okay.
So the motion has lapsed. Councillor Pattis? The amendment has lapsed through a lack of a seconder, so we'll move back to the substantive motion. Councillor Nolan, would you like to speak to the motion on the screen?
I think I've said everything I wanted to say. Thank you, Mayor.
Councillor Baillieu, as a seconder, do you wish to speak or reserve your right?
I'll reserve my right. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Is anyone opposed? Does any other councillor wish to speak or comment? Councillor Simfield.
Thank you. As the ward councillor, I would like to address this issue. This matter is before us tonight because of a history of this public space not operating optimally. We all understand that. This has been a topic of discussion for my 9 years on council and, in fact, well before I was elected in 2016. The key issues identified at the parks include parking and congestion issues, conflicts between park users, including safety conflicts between child and adult pedestrians and cars, and the spatial balance of sporting facilities and open space. In fact, according to the report, the traffic congestion and pedestrian safety was raised as an issue by all user groups. The parks are heavily used, without doubt, and on Saturdays, as is written in the report, we see 4,500 users, excluding passive users and spectators to those sporting events. The draft master plan considers both current and future needs in theory and provides various initiatives that are all unfunded at this point. Some are great and some, frankly, I think miss the mark. I'm not 100% confident that this draft master plan achieves all that it needs to achieve, particularly with regard to traffic. However, in saying that, I'm happy for it to go out to the community for consultation. The community have been waiting years for this to be presented, and this is a significant milestone. And upon consideration of community feedback, an updated master plan with a cost and implementation plan will be presented to Council for consideration and endorsement. The next version of this that comes through the chamber may in fact not be the final version either. And I'm prepared to keep working on this with officers and with the community until we receive the best version that we can of this master plan. But master plans are not a set and forget. It could come back again in a year or 2 or 5 if we haven't quite got it right. as previous councils didn't quite get it right with the current status quo that is out there right now. So I encourage you to endorse this draft master plan to enable the community to have their say. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Franco.
Thank you. I endorse the comments of the Ward Councillor Felicity Sinfield. This is a park that I've spent a weekend over many years, even though I live in the southern part of the municipality and voted in the southern part of the municipality. I know it very well. And it's an incredibly popular and vibrant park. Its popularity is the cause of some of the conflicts and concerns. Like Councillor Sinfield, I don't necessarily personally support every element of the proposed master plan here, but I think it's important to get a dialogue happening. I don't think it's relevant for me to spell out my own personal preferences and changes. I actually would welcome seeing the community feedback and the responses we get and seeing how we go from here. I think it's a really important asset or series of assets in our municipality, and I look forward to the feedback. Thank you.
Thank you. As there are no more speakers, I will revert back to Councillor Nolan as the mover. Would you like to?
Look, I think Councillor Sinfield for comments, Councillor Franco, everyone else, and I think I'm reasonably optimistic. We get community input. We get some really good minds on the traffic management, particularly around Belmore Road, and particularly around pedestrians, and particularly around the netball court precinct itself. I'm confident that and reasonably optimistic we'll get a good solution.
Thank you, councillors. I will now put the motion to the vote. All those in favour? All those against? I declare the motion carried. Councillors, we'll now move to items of general business. Are there any items of general business? Item 9.1, leave of absence.
I've applied for a leave of absence.
Thank you, Councillor Galt. If you can please leave. Councillors, I'm in search of a mover for the following motion as appearing on the screen behind me. Councillor Sinfield.
So moved.
Looking for a seconder. Councillor Baillieu.
So seconded.
Is any councillor opposed? I'll put the motion to a vote. All those in favour? I declare the motion carried. Councillors, are there any other items of general business? Councillor Sinfield.
Can I go last?
Councillor Hollingsworth.
Thank you, Mayor. I know I just voted to support the leave of absence, but the question was one of the dates for Councillor John Priera or Fran Priera, was in retrospect. Do we need to note that that's in retrospect? No.
Thank you, Councillor Hollingsworth. The answer was no. Councillor Sinfield.
Thank you. I have a matter of general business to raise, and that is that Lifeblood, Australia's national blood donation and manufacturing service, has recently announced changes to their eligibility criteria, and they are changes to the sexual activity rules for blood and plasma donation. Now, we're very fortunate to have a very brand new centre in Camberwell, a blood donation centre, and from the 14th of July, the service has removed most sexual activity wait times for plasma donations. And as a result of this announcement, I thought that it was worthwhile raising awareness in general business for our community across Burundara that gay and bisexual men are now eligible to be able to donate blood and plasma and support those in need. So thank you.
Any other items of general business? No, we move on to items of urgent business. Councillors, are there any items of urgent business? No, we'll move on to the next item, confidential business. Councillors, there are no items of confidential business. So that brings us to the close, brings us to the end of the order of business for this meeting. Thank you for all those who've joined in the gallery and online this evening, and I now declare the meeting closed.